Hi guys, biracial Tiffany here. Today I want to talk about two things. One, I have realized that I'm proud to be white. Isn't that a weird thing to say? It's just dawned on me. I go on and on about how I am proud to be black because that's the thing I feel like I have to stand up for. And that, if anything, that's what I'm accused of not being. But I don't think I've ever said that sentence in my life, that I'm proud to be white. A very politically incorrect thing to say. That, to me, that means that really when it comes down to it in America, pardon my naivete, that we still think that white is slave owning and black is slave. I just think that's something we need to be working toward changing. Okay, so what do I mean when I say that I'm proud to be white? Because I feel, I think about, I went to an I'm wearing the shirt, my goodness, it's also perfect. Alice Smith on Friday night. That have to do with anything? Oh! Number 36, why were they staring at us like that? That video seemed to just be, for me, a way of breaking the ice because it was kind of fun and funny, and I had Melissa with me. Because nobody, really talks about whiteness. It just, like we've said before, white people just see themselves as people. Mainstream society, kind of has a white root, and that's what we call normal. So that is then what? I'm proud to be normal? That's certainly not what I mean. I'm proud to be descendant from the people that I am descended from. Just as proud as I am to be from my black people. I think we don't often look, because it's just sort of the idea that it's normal and not worth examining, or not, worth is the wrong What can I learn from whiteness that's a good life lesson? I think there's sort of there's an expectation that things are going to go your way because life hasn't taught you otherwise. Blanket statements, very general. There are many white people who face adversity, who don't feel like they're part of that normal thing, and I don't mean to discredit that at all, just talking in general. It's just not a way that we're used to talking about whiteness. We're really used to only talking about whiteness in opposition to blackness, which goes back to slave owners and slaves. To me, I think there's an ease of life. There is a level of high expectation and kind of chilled out way of being that I understand that some black people would say that white people have stolen. But really, these white people here that we're dealing with today have not stolen this from us. They've inherited it. Our inheritance of that way of being was stolen long ago, so I think that's an important distinction to make, and I think I don't know what else to say about that right now, so I'm going to stop talking about it. So, The Blacklist. This was on HBO, I believe it was on August 25th. It's a documentary. It's kind of like Black in America, but better somehow. Toni Morrison, Vernon Jordan, Al Sharpton, Chris Rock, many well-known and successful African Americans were interviewed by Elvis Mitchell, who used to be the film critic for the New York Times. Hi, Elvis. There are some clips of it on YouTube. Definitely worth seeing. Al Sharpton starts, and I'm thinking, oh God, but his was one of the most enjoyable pieces to me, and then followed up by things that Diddy, is that what we call him now, had to say. Al Sharpton first spoke about church and what church has meant to the black community. Church was one of the few places that whites did not dictate the program. One place we could assemble. First place you had a title, a level of respect in society. During the week you were a boy, a girl, a maid, a chauffeur, grown men. 60 years old being called boy. That's one of the things that just, oof. Anyway, the church was not only a spiritual home, it was social. It was political, it was an economic home. And now he talks about the hip-hop generation, and he says they're connected to nothing. They're grounded in nothing. It's a new way of step and fetch it. Thug equals black manhood these days. It's been imposed on our culture and entertains whites' worst opinion of black folks. Sharpton says we should use our art to reach up. We used to look at what wasn't there, what we didn't see out in the media for our good, and create a vision of it. And we didn't just reflect on what was in the community at this time, but what we were striving for. Then Diddy started off talking about Biggie, and he said, Biggie admitted that being young and black and living in America makes you feel like you want to kill yourself. Diddy says that hip-hop was a forgotten generation. Their music programs had been cut, they didn't know how to make music, they used loops and created their own world. He said we associated ourselves with high-end brands, but Timberland said they didn't make boots for black people, and Cristal didn't want black people drinking their stuff. It's just interesting to me to hear from these two perspectives of Al Sharpton having been through the civil rights movement and worked so hard. Coming from that generation's standpoint to saying that, okay, we've broken down Jim Crow and Brown versus Board of Education, but now what? And it sort of seems like Diddy saying there was no now what. We're saying we have equal rights, and yet no one wants us, and yet we're still viewed as inferior, and yet Cristal doesn't want us drinking their stuff, even though we're going to pay the same amount of money that white people would. They just didn't want to be associated with that, and that's really infuriating. Chris Rock, what the most interesting thing I thought that he said was that it never occurred to him that he could play Radio City or Madison Square Garden, that he was just happy to be out of Bed-Stuy and have a decent job. And that's what I meant by white people sort of having these expectations, not necessarily what you're entitled to, but what you can reach for and what you can attain and what you should be striving for. And that's every human's right, but the way that our society is set up is that it's shown to white people that all of that is what they can strive for and achieve. Toni Morrison, she said white girls didn't necessarily go to college, especially not before a boy child. It wasn't a priority. They were trained to get husbands and to be taken care of. But in the black family, fathers pushed girls to go to college even if they couldn't send the sons as well. The girls could get nurturing jobs like nurses or teachers. If they pushed their boys, they might want to be promoted. There might be a little rivalry. It's like the race itself decided how to survive. Wow. Her segment was very profound. For Vernon Jordan, his segment, his mother taught him there is something beyond that. Reach for it. What that is for him. He went to school, and I don't remember what he did, but he had a moderate level of success. He said he had a house with a white picket fence, a wife, and his father would have said that's a good life, that's good enough. You've achieved it. But that his mother said there's something beyond that, reach for it. And to me, it's not a white ideal, but it's something that you might learn quicker from a white perspective than from a black perspective, because it's not hard to understand why it would seem to black people how you could miss that there is something beyond that, because you don't get the message that there is something beyond that for you most places. So Vernon Jordan said, there is a definition of black America, but not white America. We, black America, is just as mixed up in views, needs, and aspirations as any other people. There has always been dissent, difference of opinion, difference of approach to blackness. Susan Rice. It is escaping me right now who Susan Rice is or what she does, but she's black, and she was on the blacklist. And she said, we have to have enough respect for ourselves as people that we don't put ourselves in these artificial boxes of what defines us as African American. It is what we do with the gifts that we have, and whether we work to try to share them within and among our community and the larger nation. It is old to think that what's good for African Americans is the opposite of what's good for white folks. I've never really heard it put like that before, but that's true.